What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. We always have a podcast plan on a Thursday night, and good job we did for today because bombshell news, and that is Tottenham Hotspur announced the departure of Executive Chairman Daniel Levy. So this podcast is purely around that and our response to that and what it means for the future of Tottenham. We'll also be looking at Daniel Levy's tenure at Tottenham, what went wrong, the positives, the negatives, everything about it. I'll also be discussing other things in the news at the moment, such as Thomas Frank naming his 22-man squad for the UEFA Champions League phase as well. And you've got Johan Lange's interview as well with Spurs. So plenty to discuss as always. Let's go through and introduce tonight's panel. Firstly, Kallum, welcome back onto the podcast. How are you after all this news? And tell people a bit about you.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back, mate. It's second show in a week, so it's nice to do something different to transfers. I know we did have a transfer show planned, but this takes everything. So no, I'm part of the Scarfey Spurs Talks team, Part Lane podcast team, and the Spurs Diehards team. So I know it's going out everywhere, but we should have some great discussions tonight, man.
We shall. Lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Kallum. I mean, this is news. It all come as a big surprise to us all. So a lot of people will be going for it tonight. So bring on the competition is what I say. But apologies for those listening live on YouTube because we've gone late. I take responsibility and I'm going to put it on Daniel Levy himself for handing in that resignation. We had to change the show, change the thumbnail, change everything about it. But it's keeping us on our toes. Dillion, welcome back onto the podcast with your second or third time now. How are you doing? Again, talk to people a bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi, yeah, I'm Dillion from Dillion COYS. Thank you very much again, Harry, for inviting me on tonight. Look forward to discussing tonight. I do Tottenham content on, pretty much everything that I can get my hands or thoughts on. So I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all that, and discuss it all.
Lovely stuff. No, thank you very much, Dillion. That sounds great. Thanks for coming on. Teejay, welcome back onto the podcast. Done something with you the other day, but in terms of being on my channel or podcast, it's been an awfully long time. So fantastic to have you back. Remind people who you are and a bit about what you do.
Thank you for having me on again. It's been a very long time. I think it's been about approximately about a year and a half, maybe two.
Yeah.
Since I was last on this channel. I would say I'm a YouTuber, but I'm not really active as much as I would love to be. But I do go on other people's shows, So yeah, if you want to subscribe to me, follow me into Spurs. So it's IN2, the number 2 Spurs. And yeah, thank you for having me on.
No worries. Thank you very much. And reminder, if you're listening on YouTube, please do like and subscribe. If you're listening afterwards on a podcast platform, please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review. So let's get straight into it. We'll start with the news with Daniel Levy and read out the club's statement, which as follows. The headline is Tottenham Hotspur announced departure of Executive Chairman Daniel Levy. This is available on the club website and Spurs official all across social media. It's written at 5:40 p.m. this evening saying Tottenham Hotspur announces that Daniel Levy has today stepped down from his role as executive chairman after nearly 25 years. Tottenham Hotspur has been transformed over the last quarter of a century. It's played in European competitions in the last 18 of 20 seasons, becoming one of the world's most recognised football clubs, consistently investing in its academy, players and facilities, including a new world-class stadium and state-of-the-art training centre. The club has also competed regularly at the highest level, enjoying a number of fantastic on-field successes, including the recent Europa League Cup win. As part of its succession planning, the club has made a number of senior appointments in recent months. Vinu Verdakashu was hired as new Chief Executive Officer, so CEO, with Thomas Frank as our new men's head coach, and Martin Ho as our new women's head coach. Peter Charrington joins the board and now step into the newly created role of non-executive chairman. This is all part of the club's ambition to ensure that it has been set up to deliver long-term sporting success. Daniel Levy said the following: I'm incredibly proud of the work I've done together with the executive team and all our employees. We've built this club into a global heavyweight, competing at the highest level. More than that, we have built a community. I was lucky enough to work with some of the greatest people in this sport, from the team at Lily White House and Hotspur Way to all the players and managers over the years. I want to thank all the fans that have supported me over the years. It hasn't always been an easy journey, but significant progress has been made. I'll continue to support this club passionately. Peter Charrington, the non-executive chairman, said, I'm very honoured to become non-executive chairman of this extraordinary club. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank Daniel and his family for their commitment and loyalty to the club for so many years. This is a new era of leadership for the club, on and off the pitch. I do recognise there's been a lot of change in recent months, and we put in place new foundations for the future. We're now fully focused on stability and empowering our talented people across the club, led by Vinay and his executive team. There are no changes to the ownership or shareholder structure of the club. That bit's very important, that last bit. Kallum, before we dissect the statement, can I get your reaction to this news that broke tonight, Daniel Levy stepping down?
While I was playing catch up, I actually fell asleep for an hour and then I woke up to about 150 missed messages. So I was scrolling back through them and trying to piece everything together. And I don't think it came as a shock because it already looks like he was stepping back. But it was interesting to see that Carrington was the one that took over, to be honest. And I would say that it's an eye-opening news. I wouldn't say completely welcome from my point of view, but I would say it's eye-opening. It looks like a new direction. So when I did see it, it's a very straight-to-the-point statement, isn't it? It gives you the facts, and that's how it's going to be. Daniel has left his front-facing role as chairman. I know we'll discuss it later on, but the overview is that Daniel has stepped down from day-to-day running and operations of the club, from my point of view, mate.
Certainly does look that way. Thank you very much, Kallum. Teejay, happy with the news?
I still think it's April Fool's, man. I don't believe it. Like, honestly, this is, you know, my stance. And look, again, I don't want to carry on going on about Daniel Levy, but man, I still can't believe it. I just want to say something before you guys go on. I want to thank Daniel Levy for the good times and the bad times. You know, look, one thing for me, look, you know my stance on Daniel Levy. I didn't really have a good relationship with him, but the future looks bright. You know, you need to look to always move forward. You know, this saying, I think it goes along the lines of, if you're standing still, you're moving backwards. And it's a powerful saying when you think about it, because business-wise, Daniel Levy was one of the best owners. Like, he honestly, business-wise, in business terms, what he's done for Tottenham is amazing, and I give him full credit for that. But as we are all football fans, and football is the only thing we care about, to be honest with you. Again, other people have other things that they care about, but I'm a football fan. It just wasn't cutting right for me, right? So I'm just amazed. I'm amazed that, and I still don't believe it's true, to be honest with you.
No. Thank you very much, Teejay. Phillip, I'd like to apologise to you. I've just thought I didn't introduce you. I was so keen to get into the news. I can only apologise. It's incredibly rude of me. So please now do introduce yourself. I hope you've been keeping well.
Yeah, I've been keeping well. Yeah, I don't know what to say, actually. I'm still shocked as well by everything. Like, obviously, I've been on a couple of times recently. I think I was on last week, wasn't I? I'm based in Germany, Spurs fan for longer than that, 33 years, 34 years, something like that. And used to be a season ticket holder, member, but I live over here now. So I kind of follow from afar and get back when I can. And yeah, obviously very, very in-depth into all of this whole period, right? Starting with the transfer period now, kind of, and all the changes that happened before that, right? With the management and Frank and Ange and everything else. And to be honest, I certainly wasn't expecting to suddenly get about 85 WhatsApps, you know, and like God knows how many push messages coming in, like just when I was making my dinner, you know, and I thought it was a joke as well at first. I thought someone had mocked something up. But yeah, excited to talk about it in more detail, excited to see what it means for future. I think my initial emotion is obviously I'm very happy that he stepped down now, because it's time, you know. It's kind of overdue probably as well, but it's time. But I think, you know, I've never been massively one of those ENIC outers. You know, I haven't kind of protested or gone all the time about changing, you know, the ownership of the club. Just as, you know, Teejay said, I'd just like to say thanks to Daniel Levy, because I remember, you know, growing up in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, you know, being a fan in the dark days of the mid 90s, you know, kind of when Sugar was in, you know, before ENIC came in. Okay, we won the Worthington Cup in 99. Then we had, you know, the traitor incident, obviously, that we will never forget. And then, you know, ENIC came in, and I remember many days, many weeks, many months, many times over about a 20-year period where, you know, seeing that other lot down the road kind of winning everything, you know, and playing amazing football, and seeing kind of the rise of Chelsea as well, just thinking, you know, we're never going to get back to that level. You know, we've got a small stadium, great stadium, but, you know, small and in need of refurbishment. We haven't got the money. We haven't got the team. We haven't got the ambition. We're never going to get back on that level. And, you know, that's why I say thanks to Daniel Levy, because he rebuilt the club in some respects in the 2000s. You know, he made a lot of bad decisions on the footballing side, of course. Yeah, I don't think anyone can really say that he's been a massive success when it comes to footballing decisions. He's made bad choices on managers, bad choices on players. He's got lucky sometimes as well, you know, like probably with the emergence of Kane. You know, Pochettino was probably more luck than planning in some respects, that era. But, you know, I've got to give credit where it's due. You know, he transformed the club in terms of getting us to a commercial powerhouse and getting us being able to compete again. It's just a shame that he could never, you know, as I said, get those footballing decisions right, or maybe delegate it to other people that actually know what they're doing, or maybe go that extra mile with the investment, you know, like so many times. I mean, we can talk about it probably till the things go home, you know, but like, you know, we were left short so many times, so many weird decisions, so many lack of investments, you know, so many weird loan signings on deadline day, you know, Ryan Nelson and Louis Sahar and Andy Booth going back a bit further, I think. Things like this, you know, are just absolutely weird. But look, you know, he's gone, and he was here for 24 years. So I'm thankful to him for kind of taking us through that period. I think it's too harsh to, you know, I was never, you know, I wanted him to go. I wanted him to go out gracefully and just resign. And I'm glad that he's done it. And I'm delighted that he's done it. And more than anything, I think, as Teejay said and Cal said as well, I'm excited about a new era, even if it is under ENIC, even if it is under, you know, the Lewis family. I'm just excited about a new era where the main guy in charge who's making the executive decisions is gone. You know, no one is blocking things anymore. No one is doing it how he wants. You know, we have a proper CEO now who's got a footballing pedigree. We've got other people coming back. We've got Paratici coming back. And we'll discuss it in detail, I'm sure. But potentially, you know, whatever happens, whether it's with ENIC or someone else, we may have a change in
Direction.
potentially a change in in direction anyways, but a change in investment in the team. You know, this is what I'm excited about, because I don't think it's going to go the other way. You know, I think if anything, you know, this is the time now for the club to take off. And as I said, even if it's with ENIC or without, it doesn't really matter right now. Probably longer term, we will get sold, I would imagine. But let's see. I think there's going to be significant investment in the team, and you know, I'm just happy to see a fresh wind, you know, kind of blowing through the trees. So bring it on, you know. So from that perspective, I'm thankful to Levy, very thankful for 24 years. But I'm also actually very delighted and happy that he's gone now, and that we can kind of now finally get out of his shadow and take the next steps. Look, and the fact is he won a trophy, and, you know, we won a trophy last season. Levy was still involved in that. From his perspective, he can kind of go out on a high, you know, at least having won, you know, like something other than the League Cup, let's say. But, you know, whether that matters, I don't know. But, you know, he's gone now. And I think it's a good time to go. And I think everyone is going to take this news with with happiness and probably excitement just about what's to come.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you, Phillip. We'll get on to what the future looks like. But Dillion, has this news come as a shock to you tonight?
Absolutely. I mean, I I got an X notification on my phone, and sometimes you get those like fake Fabrizio account notifications on your phone from X. I thought it was one of them, so I opened it and saw it was real, and I honestly couldn't believe it. I think timing wise, yeah, it definitely shocked me 100%. It's been quite a long time coming for a lot of us. At least I think so. So, I mean, yeah, like everyone has been saying, as much as it is what we wanted, of course, can't help but say thank you for the things he has done. The facilities, training facilities, the stadium, as it's always already been said, and where he has taken us. Because, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we were not much better of a team or as a club as a whole, maybe, when he took over. So, yeah, fair play. I know the past few years have been very, very difficult on his end, and I mean, we all know why. I think it's justified. But yeah, I'm proud to see this happen. Just now, I've got my eyes on what's next for us, and that's what I think all of us are going to be thinking, because it's a bit of an uncertain road of what could happen next. So that's what I think.
100%. Thank you, Dillion. Can I stick with you as we move along? Let's focus on the negatives and we get on to the positives. So, in terms of problems at the club, people like to try and identify one person or one group as a problem. How do you view it? Like, and you talk about Levy generally doing a good job, but let's focus on the last few years. Do you think Levy was the biggest problem at the club, or was he just a problem, or do you not view him as any kind of problem?
Well, I think especially the last few years, apart from obviously the Europa League win, of course, I'd think so. I'd think maybe he's someone everyone's probably been looking at, because he's the chairman, he's in charge of transfer negotiations. I think this summer's transfer window probably exacerbated quite a lot of how everyone's already thinking of him. I personally think, yes, last few years is probably everyone would look at him, though. That's the thing. Everyone does tend to look at the chairman. I mean, I know we've had a look at the managers over in the club the past few years, and you can want them out of the club. Like Ange, it was like that. But ultimately, I think the last few years, people have seen this pattern happen over and over again, with a manager sticking for a couple years and then just sort of disappearing under Daniel Levy. And I think people just get the sense that it's the same cycle over and over again. So I think ultimately, yes, it is probably that way.
Okay, thank you for that, Dillion. Kallum, can I come back around to you? In terms of problem, we all like to identify a problem, don't you? You love a moan yourself. Who's the bigger problem, ENIC or Levy?
I think most of our gripe would have to be at ENIC, because Levy works for ENIC, doesn't he? At the end of the day, he's still only an employee. So if we have to say a problem, then it's going to be ENIC as a whole, to be honest. We can't blame them for what they've done off the pitch, because they have invested a lot of money and they've done a lot of good financing and they've run a lot of stuff. I mean, admittedly, the fact that they've built a training centre that has the shittest drainage and gas works going, that results in me having my road to work closed every day 3 months a year, is not helping. But realistically, as a club, we say that Spurs are owned by ENIC, and Levy has a 30% stake in ENIC, and they own the other 70% of it. So I would say that if you're going to target anyone, you would target ENIC Group as a whole, for the on-the-field problems, because they are the ones that have appointed the people who have made the footballing decisions and had the footballing role to play for the club. So they've appointed Damien Camoli, Franco Baldini, Scott Munn and his bike. We all know my love of that not so lovely person. I'll keep it PG because we're before 9 o'clock at the moment. But realistically, if you are going to target anyone, it'd be ENIC Group. But ultimately, ENIC are the ones that have made this decision to change Levy as well. So they have done a full restructure and a reassessment or a a reassessment and sort of a overview check of the club now. And realistically, Peter Carrington is one of their men as well. Vinay was brought in by them as well. So realistically, we might have removed Levy because he's the figurehead chairman, but now we're going to a more traditional. Well, yeah, we're going to a more traditional structure, aren't we? Sort of thing where they're going for a CEO instead of a chairman now, sort of thing. So we're still going to have Enoch and the Levy. Go on,
Can I add something? Sorry, and you can carry on. Sorry. The thing is, a lot of people don't know this, that Peter Charrington has worked with the Enoch Foundation for 26 years. So it's like subbing one person and subbing the other person. It makes no difference, to be honest with you, you know. But carrying on with what you were saying, I just wanted to mention that because that's a thing I'm seeing online, and I've actually done my research. I have it right in front of me, and I'm actually reading into Peter Charrington while you guys are talking.
You better not be on a WikiLeaks or a Reddit page. If you are, I swear I'll find you.
Nah.
You are right. I mean, Carrington was head of Citibank for so long. Spurs and Enoch have done business with Citibank all the way along. They have had them looked into. They've had them look into the club as well on financial verdicts. So, but no, realistically, we've still got Enoch at the forefront, but Joe Lewis apparently is in really bad health now. So we've got the Lewis family, i.e. the son and daughter. Vivian's apparently quite a diehard Spurs fan. So she's the one that's the sort of behind the scenes figurehead now from the Lewis Trust. And it's all Enoch's doing. It's their choice to make this change. It was their choice to do the review earlier this year. It was their choice to bring in Peter Carrington earlier this year, bring Vinay in as the CEO, remove Donna Cullen from position, make Rebecca Capelhorn step back from a certain position, make Matthew Colcott step back, Scott Munn goes. Obviously, Ange was sacked by Enoch, not just Levy. In that as well, reshape the transfer department, reshape the scouts, kick out the medical department, all of that. So this is all how it's going with that accordingly. But yeah, so what we've got is Enoch is still there, and we have to say, Levy, thank you very much for all that you've done. But hopefully Enoch will use this to get new people in the at least front-facing positions within the club. So we'll hear more from Vinay. We'll hear from, hopefully, what's his name? I've just fucking said his name, the new chairman.
Carrington.
How have I had a mind block then? I completely phased out. Must have been Harry's Wi-Fi just depleted my brain. But so realistically, they'll be the front faces. Lange, and if the big Don comes back in an official capacity, will be the transfer side. And realistically, we may hear some more stuff from Enoch. But if you're going to say fault and blame for all of these years, it still has to be the managing company of Enoch, because Levy worked for him. They paid his salary. He didn't dictate his salary. It's just they paid it to him. So you can target the man, but you have to target the backboard to him as well. I think that's the fair way of putting it.
That's true.
Good way of putting it. Teejay, can I come to you next? You have given Daniel Levy credit, but do you think fans generally across the board should recognise the work of Daniel Levy on the commercial business side? You know, we talk about new facilities, you know, true training facilities in particular, new stadium, and all the things he's done, and trying to make Tottenham this like global brand. Does he deserve recognition for that?
In a way, yes, I totally agree with you. You know, he should have more recognition of what he's done, because technically he is a very good business owner, you know, and what he's done for Tottenham massive. If you even think about it, having the concerts, the NFL, the Formula One, and all of these type of things that are just going on in the stadium, and even just building Tottenham. You know how I live in Tottenham, expanding Tottenham, and he's done such an amazing job in terms of outside of football. The problem with a lot of Tottenham fans, and including myself, look, I'm going to put myself in the limelight here. I don't really care too much about the business side of things, to be honest with you. We're all here as fans, I think majority of us care about football more than anything else. So we kind of like, in a way, we sugarcoat over all of these things that Daniel Levy has done, and we see it for what it really isn't in a sense. Like, so I'll give you a good example. If we've missed out on a player, because Daniel Levy's the face of the ENIC Foundation in terms of like our CEO, he's the one that we blame. And again, maybe it's a bit harsh that we just judge him based on certain circumstances. Look, again, I've given him credit, and I think this was the perfect time for Levy to step down, in my honest opinion, because it's not only caused a drift in the fan base, because you've got certain members in the fan base, and you know this, Harry, because me and Haz are totally different viewed as you, right? Well, I haven't spoken to you for a very, very long time, but we've always had a different view. And it's created a divide in the fan base. People want Levy in, people want Levy out, And for this one time, we're all universally on the same path, And I think this is a really good way to close the chapter, to start writing a new story. Who knows what the future will obtain? We could be sitting here in the next 10 years, and you see all the things that they said. We want to win the title. We want to win the Champions League. Who knows? Maybe in the next 5 years, it could be possible. Obviously, that's not the question you asked, right? Because I've got more to say on that, right? But in terms of like, should we put more respect on Levy's name? Look, I'm sitting here and I'm thanking him for the memories he's given me, so that should be a plus. If you spoke to me about maybe when he sacked Ange, he was my worst enemy. So this is like the different turbulence. So I've given him praise. I think he's gone out the right time, and I think we all believe. I think all of us on the panel believe it's a good change for Tottenham. Sometimes you reach your ceiling and you just can't go higher than that point. It's time for change. Even in careers, we see it a lot. Sometimes you're working for a company for a very long time, and there's no future in that company. You have to change. If you stay in the job, you're only harming yourself. And yeah, for me, that's basically to answer your question in a way.
Thank you. No, thank you very much, Teejay. And if people don't know, I had the show, didn't I, with you and Harry was it, every week, and we used to talk Daniel Levy most of the time. And I mean, we were completely different opinions, and it's nice to be on a similar term. I completely agree with you.
And I think as well, can I just mention something? If you hear the term Happy Feet Harry, I've given him that name based on our conversations, about Tottenham, about Levy, about a lot of things, isn't it? And I would call him Happy Feet Harry. And it's, that's my nickname that I think he should change his channel name to Happy Feet Harry. I think you would bring a lot of views.
We'll see. I'll consider it. That's what you're getting. I'll never forget what you said about Everton round midfield. That will stick to me. Maybe that should be your channel name. Good time to move on, I think. But Phillip, I come to you. Would you go as far as saying that Daniel Levy has single-handedly turned Tottenham into a big, profitable and sustainable football club? Because some people are going that far.
Well, I guess he's been the figurehead of it as well, though, hasn't he? But Again, as Cal said, I mean, it's ENIC, isn't it, really? But, one thing that we don't know, actually, and probably there'll be a lot of stuff coming out over the coming weeks, months, years, I don't know. But like in that 24 years, and probably more importantly, over the last 10 years, we don't know how close of Levy and, the people that have been kind of making the decisions at ENIC or, running the funds been, aligned, or, has he been kind of executing ENIC's orders or kind of what they want to get from the club, or has he kind of been actually, because of his 30% stake on him, because of the fact that he is was the executive chairman, because he was kind of taking charge of all situations, did he have actually a lot of autonomous, decision-making kind of authority? And, was it actually the fact that in the end, ENIC I say ENIC, but, whether it was Lewis before, but certainly more now, the family trust have been, not happy with kind of things that Levy's actually actioned, right? Whether they gave him too much kind of day-to-day power. That's something that we don't know, by the way, exactly. We don't know if Levy was kind of a yes man to the other people at ENIC. Supposedly he didn't, or he doesn't get on with Vivienne. But from what I've understood, he was more Joe Lewis's guy. And Joe Lewis, at the end of the day, has kind of been out of action, hasn't he, for pretty much the last 4 or 5 years, really? I can't remember when he got kind of initially jailed or charged or whatever, but he's not really been involved the last couple of years. And I think that Vivienne and the rest of the trust, the family trust, have been getting more and more involved. So, I think this is something we just don't know. And with a view to the future, anyways, like this will come out in terms of whether things will change or not, investment or not. I think that Levy, if you look at other clubs, and their ownerships that they've had over the last 20 years in the Premier League, there's been a lot of bad ownership, like foreign investment has come in that hasn't worked out. Admittedly through like smaller fry businessmen, let's say, right? Still multi-millionaires, but from, potentially, Malaysia or I don't know where else, right? Like, there's been lots of cases of other ownership coming in, trying to build up clubs and not managing it. So I think there is an argument to say that at the end of the day, Daniel Levy and ENIC together have built up the club into this commercial powerhouse, because they could have done it wrong. They could have maybe not done that, They could have got it wrong with the stadium. To be fair, looking at the other way, just to mention it, Daniel Levy wanted to move us to Stratford.
Yeah.
He wanted that. From what I understand, like he saw the opportunity to kind of obviously not build a stadium kind of thing, right? And piggyback on that one. And, he bid for it, didn't he? From what I remember, I mean, it's going back a few years now, but we lost the bid. We could have easily won that bid, right? And then we would be in Stratford. You know what I mean? And then there'd be a different story, probably, completely for the last X amount of years. And we'd all be crying, and we'd all have bought binoculars and telescopes to be able to actually watch the football, at that, frankly, athletic stadium or whatever it is. But, that was something that he wanted. And luckily he lost that. And luckily he or ENIC, whoever else had the vision then to actually make the stadium happen, on the same site of White Hart Lane. They could have moved, they could have built a stadium somewhere else, So look, I mean, I don't want to sing Levy and ENIC's praises too much, right? But at the end of the day, they've gone in there and done all of that. So I think we have to be thankful that they've, turned us into a financial powerhouse, because we certainly weren't, 15 years ago compared to the competition. As I said before, and I'll say it again, I literally cried into my cornflakes on so many mornings, after a weekend of Arsenal winning 5-0, Chelsea winning 4-0, buying all these players, and us, turning up and consistently being dross, no sign of a new stadium or an upgrade, no sign of any investment, really, no ambition. So I think it is important that we bear that in mind. But, you know, thankfully, that era, you know, there's been some highlights, there's been some very low lights. And I think when people look back on it, everyone will say the same thing, and there's that there'll be regret that we just did not push on, and that we did not have the vision or the investment to go that extra mile. Because, you know, we could have won the Champions League, we could have won the league. You know, that season when we beat Liverpool, I think it was, at Wembley, 4-1 or whatever it was, when Klopp was there, you know, and we were above them in the table. They were like 8th or 9th, they finished. You know, that was one of those sliding doors moments again for ENIC and Levy, right, where they had to invest and they didn't. So, yeah, the end note is commercially a fantastic guy. You know, he probably would have been successful being commercial roles in pretty much any, you know, kind of organization, right, similar to that size. But, you know, he is not a football man. He will never be a football man. And, you know, he's kind of probably paid for that, or we've paid for it on occasion over the years, right, through just going through these cycles, as someone mentioned, of having a manager for 2 or 3 years, right, and then starting again, hiring everyone again, buying players and getting rid of them, or rather not getting rid of them, because we never get a sell on value, you know. So all of these things come back to Levy in the end, and come back to ENIC as well. And I think for the future now, it will just be interesting, assuming ENIC stay in, you know, as Teejay said as well. But like, what changes? You know, is there a change in the mood at the holding company? You know, do we want to make a fresh start? So let's see. We don't know any of that, right? We can only speculate. But yeah, you know, Levy's done a lot of good stuff, but he's also done a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And before we look to the future, Dillion, can I ask you, in your opinion, what Daniel Levy's biggest achievement is?
I mean, it's quite a big question. I mean, he's done a few big things, really, hasn't he? I think if you're going to say in the business sense, I think probably the stadium. I think because it's not just a football stadium anymore, is it? It's a commercial place. You know, there's events going on there. There's even American football going on there. I think future-wise for the club, that's probably a big investment. Although it's going to be something we're going to be paying off for quite a while, unless, of course, maybe if we did get new ownership, which I'm not too sure will happen anytime very soon. I think, yeah, I just think that's the biggest thing, really. But I mean, training center as well, I think that's more of a player thing. So, you know, players come down to Hotspur Way if they want to have a look, potentially join the club, that kind of thing, and they will look at Hotspur Way, and it can be, I think, quite a big drive potentially. But I mean, I just think it is a bit of a big question. But where we go now is beyond me.
Very interesting.
It is. It's going to be very interesting. Like I said, if we do keep ENIC, I'm not too sure. I've heard multiple things probably today saying that they are staying or that they're looking at selling. I don't know what to believe at the moment. I think we're now at that point where, because all of this news has just come out, we're going to have to probably wait either a few days or a few weeks. Something really.
We're going to have to cut through all the bullshit, aren't we, to be honest?
That's what I mean. Yeah, because there's a lot of crap that does go around when something big does happen. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's going to be very interesting. Like I said, I'm looking forward to what's next as well for the club. I mean, I'm hopeful in a sense. I'm not going to get my hopes too much because of, well, being a Spurs fan. No matter when something looks good, it can always bring you down. So now with Levy stepping down, it's kind of like, you know, Levy said in an interview with Neville that fans will probably miss me, or they'll be more thankful when I'm gone. Part of me hopes that isn't true, because obviously I want us to be better than where we are now, you know, with like financially, especially with players coming in. I think, like someone said earlier, with Arsenal and Chelsea and where they've come in the last 20 years and how much they've risen. There's something I would love to see at Spurs as well, and I think we've definitely got that potential. massively. I just think we're banging at the door with what we've got at the moment. If we could just have someone now who doesn't mind spending a little bit, just little bits like that. I think. Well, I say little bits. It's quite a big thing, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Just looking forward now.
Yeah, exactly that. And Teejay, I believe you have a question for the panel in just a second. I've got one more question. I'll come to you if that's okay with you. Yeah.
No
Lovely
worries.
stuff. Thank you. So I want to ask all of you before we move on from the past, I'd like to look forward to the future. Let's rate Daniel Levy's time then at Tottenham out of 10. You know me, and who listens to the podcast, comes to my podcast. I love it. Rate it out of 10. I've got to do it, and I've got no transfers to do it on, so we're going to do it on Daniel Levy's time at the club. I don't know where to start with this. I mean, I create these questions, but I have to really think about some of them. This is one of them where I'm really not sure. Kallum, do you have any idea? 10 obviously being the highest, 0 being the lowest.
Are you seriously asking me this question?
I am.
Yeah.
I'd love to know. What are we thinking?
We might have lost him there.
That was a good timing.
I think we've lost Kallum.
I think Levy took his internet down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost Kallum. There we go. I thought he was thinking about it, but no, clearly not. Okay, Dillion,
It's a no comment.
yeah. What are we thinking?
Are you asking me? Sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, me first.
Oh yeah, I mean it's because you've really got to think about everything he's done in 25 years, and I'm not 25 years old. I'm only 20, so I mean, from what I've seen, and again with my knowledge of knowing where he's come from, where he's taken the club, I don't know if you can just put it down to Levy, maybe a bit of Enoch as well, because at the end of the day they own the club, but maybe a 5.5 out of 10 for me. I think halfway, because there's a lot of things that probably I know it's completely open to discuss, and it's an opinion. So I mean, you could ask me another day, and my rating would probably change a bit. But I think 5.5 simply for the fact that because he's definitely done stuff that's been great for the club. But I think just over the last maybe 10 years, the amount of close calls we've had, especially just in cup competitions in the league, and it's just always felt like we've been missing a piece of the puzzle every single time. And I think that's really let it down quite a lot, because could you imagine if every single time we had, I don't know, won the Premier League, won the League Cup back in 2015, won the Champions League, even this season, even won the League Cup as well. I would have taken that, of course. But it's just, it's something that, like I say, you can ask me any other day and my rating would change a bit. But I mean, that's what I think on it, to be honest.
That's very fair. You played that sensible. Thank you very much, Dillion. I can totally relate. You know, being 16 myself, I mean, it's not fair for me to comment that the club's in the best or worst place because of Enoch, because of Daniel Levy. I can only go off what I've seen with my own eyes. So I do share that with you. Teejay, what are you thinking rating out of 10? I would have thought yours have been quite low, but you've surprised me already tonight.
I have two ratings. I have two ratings.
Right.
In terms of off the pitch, 8 out of 10. On the pitch, it has to be lower than 5. It has to be around 3, 4. Because when you consider okay, this is about what you consider success, because I consider success trophies. A successful club is trophies to me. We can have a debate on your type of success, my type of success. I see football like this. If you're not winning trophies, you're not a successful club. And then obviously hand in hand, obviously not all teams win trophies, right? But that's my vision of success. 2 trophies in all of my life, you know, very unsuccessful team. You said you were 20. I'm 20, 25, turning 26. So practically all my life, Daniel Levy has been in charge. And I've seen a failure of a club. You know, we've either not been, we're close enough to maybe go over the line, and he's like stalled. So that's why I would rate his like 3, 4 out of 10. if it was on the pitch, but in terms of like business wise, it has to be around 7-8, in my opinion.
That's fair.
No owner of what I'm aware of, he's a really good owner. He's a really good owner in terms of business wise, you know. So yeah, there's 2 ratings. But if you want me to just bring one rating, I'm gonna meet you halfway.
If you had to,
Yeah.
what would you give it? I know it's difficult.
If I meet you halfway, I went 4 and I went 8. I'm gonna go maybe 5.5, and that's fair. That's fair. That's right. Like that's in the middle-ish.
Yeah.
You know.
No, fair enough. Thank you. Got 2 5.5s. We'll come to you in your question in just a minute, Teejay. But Phillip,
Go for it.
what are you going to rate Phillip out of 10?
Well,
Tough.
as TJ's just said, you know, there's 2 sides to Levy, isn't there? I mean, and that would be what would define him in the end. When people look back at the Levy era in many years, people will talk about the commercial side and the footballing side. And you would have 2 vastly different scores for that. You know, I would have given probably for the commercial kind of off the pitch, you know, a 9 out of 10 probably to Levy, because I don't think he's done much wrong. You know, the one thing I would say about Levy, and he was never good at this, was communication. You know, and you know, if he'd come out over the last 24 years and done more regular interviews, more updates, you know, more media work, then I think things could have been different as well. But he never did that, and I think that has also impacted maybe off the pitch on some things as well. You know, like. But he's always fought for the club, you know. He's always like, you know, been hard in negotiations and stuff. He's tried to get the best deal for the club, so I'll give him a 9. On the pitch, I mean, it's hard. It's hard because again, we've spent money on occasion. You know, sometimes Levy's probably had his ear. You know, Levy's been persuaded probably, you know, to like drop big fees. You know, like on Ndombele, Tanguy, and Lo Celso, you know, people like that window, right, where we actually spent a lot of money. But I always had the feeling with Levy that, you know, he's not a footballing man, and he's quite principled, but every now and again he also gets persuaded, you know, he gets kind of talked into things to like try it, you know. At the end of the day, he hired Conte, you know, which was probably the wrong hire for the club, but he kind of showed ambition to hire Conte in some shape or form, right? Or Mourinho in some weird shape or form at the time. But, you know, I'd have to give Levy probably for his whole era, I would say probably a 6.5. I would say overall, you know, and with the upside that if he had only, you know, or if it was a case of him persuading Enoch or him himself or whatever blocking, but if we had only, you know, opened the purse strings when Poch had those couple of years, you know, where we didn't buy anyone.
18 months.
Yeah,
18 months without a single signing.
18 months without a single signing. And that was around the time, I think, when Liverpool, you know, bought Alisson, you know, right, when they made those 2 or 3 signings, right, which just elevated them straight away. You know, that for me is going to be Levy's, how do you say it, you know? I don't want to say epitaph because that's a bit like negative, isn't it? Like he's obviously fully alive, but you know, when the dust settles, and again, people look back at the era, I think there's just going to be that frustration about it. That why didn't we just go that extra mile? Why didn't we take a calculated risk at those moments? You know, why? We had the money theoretically. Okay, we might have had to borrow some money, right, from Enoch, which we've obviously done now, or they've invested more money this summer. But why didn't we do it? We could have done it, and we didn't. And we lost out in those moments, you know, and it will always be that case of a bit like what if, unfortunately. You know, I think 6.5 out of 10 is fair. It could have easily been a 7.5 or an 8, you know, if we'd just gone that extra mile and we didn't. I don't think it's any lower than that. I think I honestly have to, you know, bear in mind everything, because I think being a bit older, you know, and having seen the kind of dark days just before Enoch came in, you know, and even after 5 years of Enoch, we were struggling, you know, to kind of get to where we should be. You know, so I have to give credit for that. So I would say 6.5 out of 10.
Thank you, Phillip. That's very fair. And Kallum is just currently nursing and sorting some internet and Wi-Fi issues, so please do bear with him and us with that. But I asked him, just sent him a text about what he'd rate kind of Levy's time at Tottenham. He said 8 off the pitch, 5 on the pitch. I've insisted for an overall, and he's given it a 7. So that's Callum's rating. So everyone's going, everyone's going fairly positive.
We're practically around the same score in terms of well, look, I've done 5.5. I can easily push it up to 6, to be honest with you. It's fair for me to do that. You haven't given your rating.
Oh God!
I want to hear what you're going to rate.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I said I didn't know. I was trying to get out of this. Oh my God! I got to give it an overall as well. No, right off the pitch, I think we've been excellent. I'll be totally honest with you. I think 9. I think you could go as high as that with off the pitch. On the pitch is quite disappointing. I think I'm disappointed with these managerial decisions, from sackings to appointments, and getting involved, in my opinion, unnecessarily. I think will overlook his time at Tottenham, which is a real shame because I think it started off very well. So on the pitch, I'd have to go quite a lot lower, but that Europa League does change something, winning that second trophy. I'd probably go with, I can't go too low at the same time because we are in and around Europe every single year. So it's incredibly difficult.
Exactly.
Incredibly difficult. So I'd probably go with a harsh, maybe 5 on the pitch and a 9 off the pitch, with a combined overall like a 6 out of 10, which is, I think, fairly positive for the way I sometimes talk about him. That's my thoughts.
That's fair.
Thanks for the question, though.
Yeah.
Go on, Teejay. Do you want to propose your question to the panel?
Okay, so really and truly, it wasn't really a question, but this is my theory. Again, I want to know you guys' opinions, if you feel the same way. I'm just going to explain how I came up with this theory. So those that... Oh, wait, I'm hearing myself. You guys' opinions, if you feel... I'm hearing myself. Okay, now I can't. Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. So essentially, so in a way, I felt like this was always going to happen. And it might surprise a lot of you guys, because in a way, I had a feeling that Levy was the next guy out. And this is based on around 6 to 7 months ago. We heard rumors about QSI, and I've literally just got the report up on my actual PC, so I'm not going off of memory. But there was like Spurs Web, Football London, Football Insider. There was a lot of The Sun. There was so many articles around that period of time about QSI talking to Levy about a potential buy investment or some sort of buy out of the club, right? And the wording around all of these articles were based on Levy will either be a part of the project, the face of the project, or he's going to be in the background. Essentially, this is me just summarizing most of the articles. Whether you believe it, whether you don't believe it, I'm just presenting you my case. Now, the reason why I've just mentioned these articles, my theory alongside all of this news today, Levy has just stepped down. He still has his shares. Technically, he's still in the background. He hasn't sold his shares yet, so he still has his shares. He's still gonna he's gonna get his dividends, you know. So essentially, is this a sign of a potential takeover? Because I have a feeling that in the next few days, and in fact, to further my claim, around 4 months ago, if I'm correct, Donna Cullen was the next person to get swiped out or booted out. Now, again, maybe I'm just adding 1 and 1 and then making it 2. And maybe it's just a theory that I'm just coming up with. Again, this is just my theory. I'm presenting it. I haven't heard it from no one else. But I have a feeling that Tottenham And look, again, there's another bit. Sorry, there's another bit. There was rumors about a potential takeover as well. How the ENIC group were looking to sell. When all of that legal trouble was happening, they were looking to sell. Is there bigger things to come for Tottenham? Because I have a funny feeling that in the next few weeks, we might see something along QSI, because I haven't heard anything from that point. From that point of him, the Qataris going to have the meeting, I haven't seen no news about it. What do you guys think? Or am I just being a bit extreme? I'm adding 1 and 1 and I'm making it 2.
I think you are a bit conspiracy theory on this one, mate. I'm not going to lie.
I could potentially be, but then again, this rumor was in April, the 4th of April, 2025, which was only a couple of months ago.
But then we had the Staveley investment last year, didn't we? As well, we had all of them rumours. Apparently, they was going to get a £500 million stake. So I think until anything's confirmed, realistically, we're probably clutching at straws a little bit. I mean,
maybe, yeah.
With Vivian and the brother taking more control at the club, I mean, because apparently this came from them as two of the main pushers for the move to remove him. And a lot of it has been questioned about his on-field success. I mean, we're getting like article after article. We've got the Antichrist of Spurs, Matt Law, saying stuff. So, I mean, I read some of his intellectual stuff. Anything about anything else I don't really pay much attention to. But then we've had Sammy Mockbell stuff as well, saying that they've been it was motivated by the Lewis family itself. We don't honestly know, do we, for definite? We're just getting journalist reports, and there's a few ITKs that are going to say that we're going to sell the club and all that. But I mean, they said that Morgan Gibbs White and Eze deal was done this summer. So I mean, we've got to take everything.
That's true.
Yeah, so we've got to take everything with a pinch of salt. But I think the basis of it is that Levy has gone. He's been asked to step down, not he has stepped down, as it's been put to us. Yeah. So it's i.e. being a forcible removal by him saying you either go or you get sacked. He will still retain his stake in ENIC, but he won't have anything to really do with the club. And it'll be Vinay and Carrington leading, with the Lewis children as the sort of final decision owners on behalf of ENIC doing it. So it's like, this is how it's going to go. And he was just one of the last pieces in place for an old regime now.
Interesting.
It sounds like they're just, ENIC, that they're just generally not being happy with Levy right now, right? And he's been pushed out. And obviously before that, they, as you said, they've done it step by step. Donna Kallum. I mean, Donna and Levy together were like, they were best deciding friends. Everything. They were best friends. Yeah. They kind of had each other's backs. They would do things in very specific ways. They wouldn't change kind of processes, etc. They had a very big decision-making kind of authority between them, right? So, like seeing all of the reports coming through now, and they're coming thick and fast, right? BBC have just put out an article. Telegraph have put out an article. And that would suggest that it's obviously clear he's been pushed out. And I think, Cal, I can't remember if it was you that mentioned it earlier, but, it was a joint decision, but it was an ENIC decision then to get rid of Ange, as well. And that would also kind of then, mirror the fact that, they weren't happy with what was happening on the pitch generally, right? Even then last season. Obviously we got the trophy in the end, we've been there, done that, talked about that. But, the fact remains, and this will be the case when it comes to ENIC looking at it. If we had lost that final, then it would have been the worst season in Tottenham, recent history? Like 50 years, 60 years? And Ange would have been, put on the scrap heap. And he would have gone in disgrace. Thank God we won it. Thank God he won it. But that's the other side of it. And Enoch would have been looking at that and seeing how we were playing last season. So it does make complete sense that they've all kind of got together now and done this. But that would suggest that, you know, they want to retain control of the club. But there is a chance, right, for a sale as well. I would imagine that if a bid comes in, like a confirmed bid that matches the valuation of the club, and I think the club is valued at 4 billion today.
Yeah, so that's gone up 700 million since one article that we saw earlier. So I mean, Jesus. So if we're saying are we saying 4 billion pounds? Are we $4 billion? I mean, it won't be in euros because no one wants to divvy in euros and all that unless you live on the continent.
I've seen Football Insider are quoting for 5 billion. 5 billion.
Mate, I wouldn't even use a Football Insider article to wipe my arse with, to be honest. So I mean, literally...
no, I'm just pulling up articles to help you out in it. Yeah, another article, the Tottenham Insider. I don't know what this is in it. It's saying around 4.4 to 5.5 billion. Well, whether it's 5 billion, whether it's 4 billion,
but that's if they don't know. They're given a range. Of opinion, you know, range
of opinion. To be honest with you, yeah.
The only sorry, I was just going to say the only parties that could pay that or would want to pay that, you know, bear in mind they get a full infrastructure, everything else is probably, you know,
UTI.
someone like exactly, someone like the Qataris. You know, I say a nation state, but whatever. But someone like that, you're not going to get an American investor. You know, probably similar to like Todd Bowley or someone coming in and paying 4 to 5 billion, you know, for control. I don't think that's not in the current economic markets, right? In the current global situation as well, because there is, you know, a lot of, what's the word? Disruption. You know, no one would come in at the moment. I would imagine that. I would say that we will sell eventually, that we will see new ownership eventually, but we're probably still a bit early in that process. And if Enoch really are changing the guard and, you know, the son and the daughter and especially Vivian are coming in and they've already got rid of the manager, they've got Thomas Franklin, you know, who, you know, looking at what we probably want to do is the right manager for us, let's say, right, in terms of his profile. We've gone and spent money now in the window. We still wanted to get Savinho or someone else like that. So we were willing to spend another 70 million or more, but we just didn't because we couldn't force them to sell, right? And we didn't make any panic buys.
Can I actually say something? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, innit? In a way, us Levy stepping down or getting kicked out or whatever he's done, right? In a way, it's benefited Tottenham because we have seen a lot of I've seen a lot of things online saying how Levy is one of the hardest owners to deal with. I think Sir Alex Ferguson said along the lines of it was worse than a hip replacement and all of this and all of that, right? So now, in terms of like now we have a different owner, different in a way where the negotiations is not on Levy. Maybe clubs might want to do business with us, you know? We're not trying to penny pinch on so many. Go for it. You were going to say something.
You're absolutely right. There's probably a bad side to that. You know, Levy played hardball and, you know, we can now be taking advantage of maybe a little bit more.
Created so much enemies. He's created so much enemies. And we can tell because, look, nobody wants to deal with Tottenham. Realistically, we scam every penny out of like we don't even buy the value for the product, you know. And in a way, you might say it's good business. It's great business. Instead of buying it for £5, you've got it for £3.50. But in an ideal world, you're working with these guys, especially in the Premier League. the owners don't change. You're going to be dealing with the same people, the same owners. And if you're scamming every single time, they're not going to trust you. And in a way, I'm not saying this is why we missed out on Savinho, but that could be possibly a reason.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Teejay, for raising that point and that question as well. But a couple of questions on this where I want to move on to like the Championship squad and Johan Lange's interviews. We've got so much still to discuss. Pearson Charrington is the new chairman. We have briefly touched on it. Kallum, yourself in particular, has. But Kallum, I will stick with you. What are your thoughts on this? Do you see this as a positive or negative thing? Have we got you, Kallum? No, we don't have Kallum. No, that's fine. I will reassign the question to you, Phillip.
I have absolutely no idea in reality what Peter Charrington is going to do on a day-to-day basis as it stands. He's obviously not. It says he's a non-executive chairman. That normally means that he has no day-to-day, decision-making authority at the club. I imagine that Vinay will basically be the absolute main guy, right, when it comes to any footballing related decisions, transfers, wages, team planning, whatever, and the rest of the club as well, right, in terms of stuff. He's a CEO. That's what the CEO does. Charrington will probably be there in some kind of reporting capacity, or he could be there also on a kind of a commercial helping side, bearing in mind his connections in the financial markets as a non-exec. He could be there to potentially also help, Vinay or whoever, right, to actually get investment or more investment into the club, if that's still a topic. Maybe we still want to get, a minority investment into the club. Could still be a topic. I don't know. We don't know any of this. Like, this will only come out in the next couple of months. But I would imagine that Charrington won't actually be doing that much when it comes to day-to-day stuff. So I don't really have an opinion on him, if that makes any sense. He's not replacing Levy, because that is Vinay. That's Vinay's job. He's taken full control of the matters as CEO. And probably the question is whether Charrington would even act as a go-between, right, between Vinay and the Lewis Trust, or whether he's not, and whether maybe Vinay is dealing directly with the trust. I don't know. We don't know this. We'll have to see what happens in the next weeks.
Yeah, no worries. I love the comment from Stephen Wilson. He says, Angela Rayner book his favourite to take over. Well, I wouldn't bet your house on it. Let's put it that way. But
well, it's all right. There's enough council houses down on the high road that she can claim another fifth allowance and sixth allowance on. You never know.
Make sure it's paid in full. Let's move on. Well, actually, before we do, I want to read something that's just come out, actually, while I said move on, from BBC Sport. Phillip, you sent me this as well. BBC Sport say they understand the decision was taken out of Daniel Levy's hands. According to well-placed sources, the company that effectively owns Spurs, the Tavistock Group, which is owned by the Lewis family, has agreed for Levy to leave his position amid a belief that change will help the ambitions of greater and sustained sporting success. Levy will depart with immediate effect, and there'll be no notice period with that timing of his departure after the summer transfer window, a clearly deliberate move. BBC Sport has been told that there is a sense from the Lewis family that success on the pitch has not been consistent enough over the years of the Levy regime. Spurs have won 2 trophies during his 25 years at Spurs, the first being the League Cup in 2008. The Lewis family are well aware of some supporters' discontent at the moment, much directed at Levy in particular, that has engulfed the club in recent years. Tavistock figurehead Joe Lewis, of 88 years of age now, is understood to have had a big role in his decision for Levy to leave his post. It's understood that younger generations of his family, Vivian and Charlie, who are Joe's children, have been key in the making decision too. They both wanted him gone. Vivian has been in particular visible at Spurs in recent months. You've got Nick, the grandson-in-law of Joe Lewis, has also been a great involvement in this. So there we go. A lot of people included. So we'll move on because we talked a lot now about Daniel Levy. I want to move on to another big bit of news this week, and that is to do with the Champions League squad people haven't seen it, Thomas Frank has selected his 22-man squad. This is the Champions League phase only, so don't be looking at it thinking, oh my God, I want this player in here, he's not here. We can select it after the league phase if Tottenham do get there. So here's the confirmed 22-man squad then. Goalkeepers, there's 3, Vicario, Kinski and Austin. Defenders, Porro, Spence, Romero, Van der Ven, Danso, Davis and a doggy. Midfielders, Bentancur, Paulinho, Gray, Bergval, Sarr. Simmons, Kudus, Johnson and Odebear. Forwards, got 3 now. How nice is that to say? Solanke, we got Richarlison and Mwani. That is the 22 selected.
no.
So, but players do miss out. You're always going to get that. So Matis Tel, most notably, has been left out of the Champions League squad. Kota Dakai, Raja Dragosin, Yus Bissouma, James Madison, and Dejan Kulusevski also not included in the squad for the league phase. Kallum, any surprises in there for you?
Madison, no, because we know he's probably out for about 9 months. Kulu's probably out until November, December, so the group stages will be coming to an end by that point. Kota Sakai has played more football than most of our squad this year and has that long-term, I think he's actually got a genetic problem with his leg or something like that that's causing his injury, so that's why he's been managed back. Dragu's got his ACL, so I don't expect him to be back and up and running for 6 to 8 weeks. Biss has been told to poke it as far as he can out to Turkey, so no surprise on that one. Tel was obviously the biggest one, wasn't it? And realistically, he had to make a decision between Tel and Odebear, to be honest, as like the prospect wingers. So Tel surprised me a lot, but the more that I look at it and the more that I've been thinking about it today, if we're going to have another 60-game season, there's still more than enough games for him to prove himself in that. And it's like you said as well, after the group stage, we can bring 3 players into that, or 3 new players that can be switched out. We can't do a whole new squad, but we can add people. So realistically, you'd probably be thinking maybe Kulu comes in, so maybe Odebear then drops out later on. Maybe, I don't know, Richarlison literally ruptures an ACL. Solanke's injury turns out to be worse than it is, and he's completely out for there. So realistically, we have to look at it as this is a group stage. You then have 3 new players from January 31st or February 1st, whatever day it is. And that's how you got to look at it. But I think we've gone with our strongest squad, realistically, that's available to us. I think if Kulu and Madison were available, we probably would have seen Odebear out. We probably would have seen maybe Gray or Bergval drop out as well, to be honest, one of them 2. So it's just the way that it is. And what doesn't help is that with the goalkeepers, you need to have 3 registered, 2 on your A list, 1 on your B list. The problem is our next available goalkeeper after Austin and Kinski is Luka Gunter. He's nowhere near first team for Spurs. So we had to register Austin and Kinski in there for it. And to actually register Austin meant that we got another player slot in there, because if not, we'd have probably had to not register Odebear and Austin in there because of the situation we've left ourselves with being so crap at getting homegrown players and club homegrown players. It's all off the back of our own making, and within the next 2 seasons, it should solve itself with Graham Bergval and I think Vuskovic next year being able to be on the B list. But on the back end of that, then the following year, they'll be club homegrown trained. But because we got Mikey, Lancashire, Donnelly, Phillips, Demola, Abbott, everyone like that out on loan in the Championship and Scottish leagues, and the first League One and League Two, it means that the next available homegrown players will be on our B list because they are too young to probably want to waste first team slots on, if you get what I mean. But we've had this problem for the last 3 years. Players we had come through: Skip, Tanganga, and Winks. Realistically, that's how shit we have been transitioning our youth players through to the first team.
Right, okay. No, thank you. Any language there that may have offended me. That's a horrible noise. Thanks, Kallum. don't do it
Hey,
again.
it's not me.
Oh, I think it's you. Sounds like you. I'm blaming you. Well, listen, I think you're right. And what I would say is I think the club deserves a little bit of credit because they do seem to plan a little bit for the longer term with younger players. It seems like we are finally thinking about the future. Where I will absolutely not give the club credit. I very rarely give my opinion on my own podcast, but who on earth thought it was a good idea to go into a season where we want to compete in all four fronts with only 3 fit centre backs? Okay, you can't control injury situations, but how? I'm sorry, but I really wanted a left winger, and I kept this quiet. But for me, that was my absolute priority position: 3 fit centre backs, and people will turn around and go, "Davis can play there, Gray can play there." You know, I'd rather have someone at the academy, if I'm honest, and that's no disrespect to either of those players because they're both good in their own way. Not centre backs though. You know, Gray I think done his absolute best last year, and I think done a decent job. And then that's it could go further than that. Done a good job, in fact, last year. But he's not a centre back. It's not going to help him in his development, in my opinion. And you've got Davis. Do you think he can really play centre back at his age? You know, the physicality, the pace. I mean, I think asking him to play left back occasionally is a stretch, let alone centre back. So I just wanted to put that out there. 3 fit centre backs, and people turn around to me and go, Radu Dragson's just a few days away from returning. But Frank's words were after the Bournemouth game, he's 2 months away from returning. That is, for me, extremely concerning because Frank will want to play a back three. Imagine playing a back three and you've got no centre back on the bench. I cannot get my head around that. So, Phillip, I'll put that to you. I mean, the squad, we saw it there. I mean, I just think we're really thin on centre backs.
Yeah, I would have really liked to have got a left-sided centre back in who can maybe play, left back as well. And I think we did. We didn't do a good job there, did we? We obviously inquired for Hincapi, who's gone down the road. I think it was clear that we inquired about a lot of players like we always did, right? But we couldn't get one over the line. It sounds like we weren't willing to pay or do the investment for Akanji, I think, because supposedly he was up for coming to us, but
15 million euros. I'm sure we could have found the funds.
Yeah, I would have. I'm surprised we didn't actually. Even if it was 20 million euros, I think he's 28. Is he something like that? He's not like super old. He's still got
31. He's 31.
Oh, is he?
Oh, really? Oh,
okay.
Him and Aki were both 30 and 31. So that was the main looking point of it, is that they didn't want to sort of block that with someone older that was going to get stuck on like a 4 or 5 year contract.
Still better than what we got.
That's okay then. If he's that old, then I can understand it. But I guess the challenge for the club is always to find a left centre back or someone who's happy to kind of sit on the bench, right? Knowing that they're not going to play.
That's another question. Funny, but should we be signing someone to sit on the bench? Or as great as Van der Ven or Romero are, don't you want someone who's pushing them to be better and keep their place?
100%.
Well, that's what Arsenal have done, isn't it? I mean, they've just got Hincapi in.
Nobody signs. Let me just say something. Nobody signs for a bench option. There's no such thing as bench. You sign to be a player to challenge that person. So put it like this: you got Richarlison playing in strike right now. Obviously, we've got Kallum Muani, right? You're signing to challenge for that spot. If Kallum Muani takes that spot, I expect Richarlison to challenge him for that spot. Nobody signs to play on the bench. So for me, there's always room to improve. We should be looking to improve in all areas of the pitch. Look, Romero is our captain. Van der Ven is our captain, but we should always look to improve. If there's an opportunity to improve in an area, why not? Why not? What's the harm? It just makes the level of Tottenham go from this to that. Look at the best teams in the world. Their bench option could walk into our team right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry, you made a really good point, and then I wanted to address that.
To be
because
fair,
I'm not. Oh, you go for it.
No, sorry. I was just going to say that, we, from what I understand, we did actually try and, we made a bid for Gay as well, but he very clearly wanted to go to Liverpool. I think we did want to get Hincapie, but he clearly wanted to go to Arsenal. So you're right. You're right on that, Teejay, and I agree with you actually. Right, we should be buying players that want to fight for the shirt, right? And actually, why is Mickey van der Ven even? He's not got a guaranteed starting spot, has he? He shouldn't have. None of those players should have. Danzo should also be able to come in and replace Romero, right? Theoretically, if they perform in training and stuff. So I think we tried, but again, we didn't. We couldn't get a deal done.
I think that's, sorry to interrupt. The word I think will sum up Daniel Levy's time at Tottenham.
We couldn't make it happen.
Yeah.
But see, look, can I also add into that? We're all human beings, right? Money talks. Money talks. There's a reason why we don't get the best players. Okay, maybe now. Obviously, this statement would have been in the past, but there's a reason why great players play for great clubs if you're willing to pay for them. Our wage build is also a problem.
Yeah.
Our wage build is one of the lowest in the Premier Leagues. So you're not going to attract no superstar or stars that are going to replace our current stars with the wage build that we have. And that's not me saying you just throw money at anything. No, I'm not saying that. You recruit wisely. You have the recruitment team to identify the players. Example, you got Tell on the pitch. You can't possibly tell me Tell was, and look, Tell has a high ceiling. I want to make that clear for everybody. I'm not hating on him. Obviously, a Happy Feet knows my stance on Tell. But you can't tell me Tell was brought to Tottenham to play on a win or to fight for that position. Because for me, there's so many other players that are better than him. He actually hasn't showed us why he was brought to Tottenham. We've even sent out people on loan, like you've got the likes of, I don't know, like you can name anybody, Donnelly, that could have done a job the same way Tell is doing a job, right? Mikey Moore could have done a job the same way Tell is doing a job. What makes Tell so special? So this is why it comes down to our recruitment as well. You pay for what you want. So like Savinho, for example, it's clear that Man City wanted around 80 million. We wasn't really willing to go past 80 million. So we never got the player. There's your option. That's the reason.
That one you are completely wrong on, mate, I'm afraid.
Oh, you think so? Okay, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Because Spurs put down an offer. We matched what they wanted. But they wanted to get Rodrigo in, and he didn't want to leave. So he didn't want to leave Real Madrid. So they weren't going to let the player go unless they had a ready-made replacement for him.
Okay, fair enough.
Because Spurs put in an offer for him. We put in an offer for Rodgers as well this summer, but they wanted more. We put in an offer for 80. They wanted 100. Then we started having make and break deals, and they turned that down because they wanted players to balance out, but they wanted our players, not what we wanted to give them to get rid of them. We put in the offer for Eze. He backstabbed us. We put down the money that they wanted, and then they went and negotiated a deal with Arsenal for his release clause. Arsenal put in 10 million more than us once we'd agreed a deal with them as well, and he called up Arteta to get him to swing the deal. Gibbs White, we offered 60 million and then put up 67 million on the table for it and turned us down. Hincapie, we said we'd match their release clause. He chose Arsenal. So it's not like we didn't try, and we've tried in the past. And like Harry said, we have tried for these players. It's just that some of them want to go for ridiculous. Some of these players go for 300 grand a week. They are nowhere near valued at that for their wages.
100%.
Gibbs White.
I agree with you.
Gibbs White at At Nottingham Forest, he was on 70 grand a week earlier this summer. We upped that to 140. They made him sign a new contract at 180.
Fair enough. So, in a way, money doesn't indeed talk in terms of, because like we are human beings, He's
Everyone's
used
got
us
a
as a
price.
skateboard. Yeah. And whether we tried or not, it still makes the point. You pay for our wage budget doesn't help the situation. And look, maybe we're unlucky. Again, we don't know. We can't assume that all of our deals were like this. Like example, I'll give you a very good example.
All right.
I have the question of why do we leave it so late? If we knew the targets we were trying to go for, why didn't we bring in the target? If we knew that Son was leaving as well. Think about it like this as well. It's not like we didn't know. We prepared that exit for him. So don't you think a replacement should have been at Tottenham during Son's time at Tottenham?
Yeah, no, of course.
It's
a good point you raised.
So again, it's Tottenham. That's the Tottenham for you, really.
Right, now thank you for that, Teejay. I want to get back to what we're talking about, the 22-man
Champions
squad. No, it's my fault. I'd started moving away from that. But Dillion, that squad, if you can remember it, be impressed if you can. Anything you would have changed if you were Thomas Frank?
Probably not. I can't say I changed much. I mean, it's all pretty much there. For what we need at the moment, what we have at the moment. I think, like it was sort of pointed out earlier, I think the big talk is probably about Tell. I do like Tell. Unfortunately, of course, if you were to ask me if I was to pick him or Odobert at the moment, I'd go Odobert simply based on performances. I don't think Tell's been quite up to it. I think we all know that. But we know what Thomas Frank can do with players. I really do hope that Tell can shine under him. I mean, we got him on loan, if you think about it. As far as I said, we weren't sure if there was an obligation to buy. We didn't think so. Then there was. And then we did end up renegotiating for buying for him to try and get him a bit cheaper, which we actually did end up doing. I do have hope in him. I do think he will do good things at Spurs. He's still really young as well. I mean, we've seen players be absolutely awful and then just shine out of nowhere, especially when you've got a player like him who's so young. We've seen him do it a little bit at Bayern and in France as well. So just give him time, I think. I know it can be one of those things where you're not really sure. Admittedly, I'll admit that. If he does well, he does well. If he fails, he fails. Okay, that's fine. But as in the whole squad, there's nothing that surprises me. I think league phase. I think maybe we got a bit lucky with some of that draw. I was watching it. Maybe one or two hard games, but I'm confident we'll do pretty well in it. When we get to the knockouts, I think then we'll probably bring him in. Injury wise, we won't know exactly. But that's what I think, to be honest with you.
Thank you very much, Dillion. Good point.
Harry, can I just come in on something? So Sky Sports have just reported Spurs majority shareholders, the Lewis family, are committed to the long-term future of the club and not looking to sell their shares.
That kills my theory then.
Told ya. Go back to your basement. Go back to your basement and your alien flying saucers, mate.
That's why I can never be an IPK. That kills my theory then.
Thanks for sharing. I think it'll come as a big surprise, but I think we're all clutching at straws there. We'll have to see. That's just for now. We'll have to see what the future holds. Thank you very much, Kallum, for that. Phillip, can I get your thoughts on that 22-man, should I say, Champions League squad? And in particular, is this harsh on Tell, or do you think overall it's probably fair?
I think it's fair, to be honest. I can see why it looks harsh, and I mean I imagine he would have been pretty annoyed about that. He's just come from Bayern. He's just signed permanently. He would have expected to be playing in the Champions League, but at the end of the day, I think it's the right call. It was either him or Odobert, really, wasn't it? I think, to be honest, and Odobert is further down the line than him at the moment, and he can probably come in and play maybe a couple of different roles as well. I think Odobert deserves a chance and deserves a run as well, maybe in some of those games. I'd like to think that Tell will get minutes in the Premier League and in the domestic cup games. Maybe as a bit of a trade-off almost. You know, he's good enough, but yeah, he needs a lot of time. And as Teejay said, he's a great talent. He's got a very high ceiling, but his confidence is a bit low at the moment, I'd say. You know, and he needs to fully arrive. You know, he's got a new manager as well, right? He's got a new manager, it's a bit of a new setup. He's probably still settling in England. He probably didn't know if he was going to stay in England, right, originally. So there's a lot to deal with. He's young, right? Is he still 19 or is he 20 now? I'm not sure, but he's like, yeah. So he's a young player that admittedly started quite young at Bayern, you know, playing first team games and stuff. So he's got experience, but you know, maybe he just needs to kind of come, you know, get grounded and, you know, get settled, and it's fair enough. And I think, you know, he's a good guy, like from personality and mentality. You know, he's got his family's very supportive. His agent's actually really good. Here in Germany, Bayern always used to say that he was like really, you know, good in training, you know, not throwing his toys out the pram kind of thing, right? You know, he was really committed. And I'd like to think that he's going to just get his head down and, you know, focus on trying to impress in the games that he gets, because his start to the season wasn't particularly good, was it? You know, his Paris cameo was frankly awful, like honestly. But you know, again, he needs time. I think I understand the decision, and I think it's fair. I don't have any issues with that call, and I think, as someone else said, next summer or next year, next season, we're going to be in a better position anyway, aren't we? With the homegrown players that are kind of newly qualifying for that status.
Yeah.
So absolutely fine. I'm happy with the picks. I'm happy with it.
If I said though to you, Phillip, Tell or Odobert, would it have been Odobert that you would have chose if it had to be between the two?
Yeah, it would have been. Although there might have been a bit of a heart versus brain kind of moment, right? I think if I was a bit more emotional, I might have picked Tell myself. But I think if you analyze it in a bit more detail and think about it, then Odobert is the right decision. And yeah, I would have picked Odobert in the end if it was a straight decision between the two of them. And I let's not forget that Odobert, he's played quite a bit of Premier League football, hasn't he? When he was at Burnley, hasn't he played like one whole season or 2 seasons even?
In a way, I think there's hands down, there's only one pick, and sadly, it's not me being harsh, but there was only one person to get miss out on the squad, and it should have been Tell. Again, he has a high ceiling, and I think the mistake that Tottenham made was we've loaned out, and again, I feel like he deserves a loan for his development. But it just makes you wonder if we brought in Tell for him to be a starter or for him to be rotation, if you get where I'm coming from. Look, I think this is going to do him good, because you want to build strong characters in the dressing room, you know, and this will actually tell me if he's Tottenham or if he's not, in a way. If he's willing to fight for his position. I know it's disappointing. He's come from Bayern Munich. I think he expected to be included in the squad, but we will rarely see the type of character. This might even excel. It might even do him good, you know, in a weird little way, you know. But yeah, that's my take on Tell, man. I haven't really been impressed with him. In terms of, like, there's a lot of, he's very, in a way, without me being harsh, and I'm not trying to be harsh, I don't see the attributes there, if you get where I'm coming from. I said this to you, Happy Feet, on my show. when you look at like our past players or even our academy, you look at attributes. I'll give you a example. When you look at players like Werner, and I'm not comparing Werner to Tell, I'm just using a templated player. It could be anybody. It could be Bell. It could be Harry Kane. It could be whoever. But you look at the key attributes and you say, what is the key attributes to Werner? We know that he wasn't a prolific player, but we know that he's good at running. He relies on his pace. Whether he was successful or not, but that's a attribute that Werner uses to his advantage, right? With Tell, I'm struggling to see the development, and I don't see what he's good at. And hopefully, him being left out of the squad in terms of it will do him good. It will make him work on himself. And yeah, that's my take on it, to be honest with you.
Some very good points. No, thank you very much, TJ. And before we get on to last but not least, Johan Lange's interview, Kallum, it has been a real tough time for Tell lately. Would that be fair to say? And do you feel for him?
Yeah, I do feel for him, to be honest, because I think there is a very good player there. And you don't go from playing for one of the best world teams in world football, their under-21 championships, to be honest. I mean, him and Odebear were brilliant this summer at the under-21s competition. So I definitely think there's a player there. And I think the fact that we're writing him off or saying that he's not good enough or he's shy or whatever you want to say, within 7 months of us getting him and all that. I mean, we're in September now. We signed him on the 31st of January. He played hardly any football for Bayern last year because of injury. And we then bring him in and he got thrown into the deep end. I mean, how is he meant to develop in an Ange team which he was being played in games when literally he was being hung out to dry and all that? I mean, this is where our fan base is, and where it really frustrates me, where they are naive and fickle, because this guy is 19 and 20. I mean, to be honest, my brain's still developing at 28 and I'm still developing as a person. I mean, it's not a very good development, but it's still developing in there. And this guy has the world on his ceilings, and I'm not a happy clapper. I think we probably overpaid for him, which I think is where we probably traded up the Kane money for him. But there's such a big player in there if we unlock it, and someone who can do it for the future. So I think for anyone who writes him off, and this is only my personal opinion, go lock yourself in a room and think about your own life choices, to be honest.
You feel like we should have sent him on loan? That's my question that I'm going to ask you, because that's my stance on it. I felt like bringing someone so young, not experienced in terms of, I'll call it not experienced in the Prem, and then relying upon him to perform is naive from the top, from the owner's perspective. And like we saw Mikey Moore and all of these guys go out on loan. Don't you feel like the same pathway should have been for Tell?
Well, considering that we loaned out Mikey Moore, Jamie Donnelly, Ash Phillips, and Will Lancashire, to name some of the main ones this summer, Mikey Moore can't get in a shit Russell Martin team, and Russell Martin is awful at Rangers and just got kicked out of the Champions League. Jamie Donnelly and Ash Phillips can't get into a Stoke team which can't even hit a barn door from 2 yards away and got it knocked for 6 by a team called the Chickens. Will Lancashire is the only one that's doing any good at Oxford at the moment. And to be honest, I don't see any place where we could have sent Tell to be honest, in all honesty, because where would we have sent him to? In the Premier League, I mean, we could have sent him to a Brighton, and they've got a load of foreign wingers already. We could have sent him to Palace, but we know that relationships are strained there and that they even pulled out and signed Manor Solomon, who, it doesn't matter about his politics, religion or anything like that. He is not a good player for Spurs, and yet they even pulled out of that one. And he has more Premier League pedigree than Tell at the moment. So realistically, I don't see where we could have loaned him that'd be any good and all that. I mean, literally, we had to send the Solomon to the Yellow Submarine in Spain. That's how desperate we were, at 11 o'clock transfer. So I think we overpaid for him. I think that there is a player in there, but he needs game time. And if we are going to play Odebear in the Champions League, fine. So then Tell has to start every cup game. If he plays shit, he gets dropped. If he does well, he plays in the Premier League. Simple as that. Because, I mean, he actually made an impact against Bournemouth at the weekend, to be honest. He was leading the line. He was doing well compared to Johnson and Spence, who can't play together on the left-hand side. Kudus had a very quiet game. Richie can't hold the ball up to save his life unless he's got players playing with him. And we had the most shallow midfield. So you have to play to these players' strengths. I don't think we play to Tell's strength at the moment because he's falling into that category of being a utility player. He can adapt to too many positions, but he's not good at any of them at the moment. He could do a job in them, but he hasn't got a set position at the moment. Because I naturally think he's a left winger by trade. I don't think he's a number 9. But you got to play to his strengths. And I would have much rather see him on the left than Johnson at the weekend, because at least he could run at his man and scare the shit out of Adam Smith. Let's put it that way, because he's the most unmobile right back in the Premier League. Let's put it that way.
Language, goodness me. Thank you, though, Kallum. You make a good point.
It's after 9 o'clock, so it's after Watershed. I'm allowed.
Not the point. Not the point. You can listen to it after the donut.
Happy feet. Before you go on, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to go off again because my phone is on 1%.
Cool. No worries.
I can join back, but I don't know if the show's going to be ended. That's why I left earlier.
No worries. Go on, you jump whistle. No worries at all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me on. Kallum, missed you, man. I'll definitely jump on more often. Dillion, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Phil, nice to meet you as well. And we've got our Tottenham back. Come on.
Right. Cheers, Teejay.
See you later, brother.
Right. Moving on to Johan Lange's interview then. So I want to discuss it to end. He totally listened, didn't he, TJ? To don't disturb the podcast if you leave, but don't worry about that. I'll come to you. With Lange's interview, which is done with the club, which is cool. So the question's always going to be tailored, rightly or wrongly. So what did you think of it? And how do you think he came across?
He seems to be a lot more confident compared to the one that he did last year, to be honest, because the year before that we had Paratici doing it. Last year was his sort of first one doing the club-to-club interaction, but I thought he seemed a lot more comfortable and he was able to speak a lot more on the role. It was quite interesting that he kind of alluded to the failures as well of the transfer window, like we've been turned down. I wonder whether the club maybe tried to balance it a little bit, because that then led on to the Xavi Simons question about waiting for your targets, all of that stuff. And we know they did business early because we had Kudus, we had Teejay, we had Paulinho, sort of early season sort of stuff. I think because it is a club piece, it's like the Gary Neville interview. It's always going to be monetised and sort of blocked to certain extents, but he did cover the main points, saying how well our summer had been. We'd given Sonny a nice going away. We'd given Spence and Romero new contracts. We're looking to the future with these players. We've brought in automatic improvement players. 4 out of the 5 signings that have been officially made in this window are improvements on our first team. 1 prospect who he said that they've scouted for a long time. So you can see that's a hangover from Angie's knowledge from the Japanese league, until and Danso's deals being made permanent, which he covered as squad options. But it was quite the thing that I took from it was the sort of intricacies of the loans, of how they look at it, seeing Andy Scolding leading on it, how they have like 6 different departments linked into it. You've got home care, you've got medical, you've got the scouting team, you've got the data team, you've got the integration team, and then you've got the first team all looking at the options. So it was actually quite good to see and have that put out to the world, because I knew some of it. I didn't know that many people were involved in just trying to get a person to go on loan somewhere and looking at different teams' managers and the record of that team of bringing through youth players. Also sort of has that person actually used a player or have they wasted them as such? So it was quite good. And it's usually about 10 minutes, I think, that they do. So, I mean, they actually got it to 20 minutes. So it was quite positive. I think it was a lot more uncensored than I thought it would be, to be honest. So it was interesting. I mean, I know I shared it with you last night, and I know me and Phil discussed it and different bits like that, but it was good to see the club getting more open. I wouldn't say they're as open as they could be, because some teams say about everything, and like we know with the directors of football in Italy, they will reveal every aspect to your deal whatsoever. And I know that Phil's got Max Abel, is it, at Bayern, who seems to never shut his mouth at all on any transfer dealings. I don't think I'd want that too much from Spurs, but it does at least, he covered the main points. There are some that I think could have still been answered, but realistically, it was more eye-opening than I thought it would be, to be honest.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. Thank you very much. I just like that there's that communication there now, which is something that has been greatly
needed.
Much needed. Do you agree, Phillip, that communication, it's been a while, long time coming, but it's nice to have it, that transparency with the fans?
Absolutely, yeah. You can see the Vinay effect already at the end of the day. He's only been here a couple of months, and I think from day one, he's been quite strong on that. You know, he improved that at Arsenal, didn't he, when he was there? Regular media days, regular interviews with the different departments, better public relations, just more open, more transparency, and that can only be a good thing. Yeah, as Cal said, I mean, yeah, you don't need like full disclosure on everything, right? Like on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. That guy at Bayern, frankly, is, well, I think he might get fired anyway soon.
They've tried to get rid of him for 10 years. I mean, he's like a turd that won't flush.
He's I think they poached him from Leipzig, from Red Bull, I think, or something like that.
That really inspires confidence, don't it?
They paid a lot of money for him as well. But yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, even Bayern make a lot of bad back office decisions, and actually sometimes quite bad manager decisions as well. It's just they're lucky that they play in a very weak league comparatively, and they've got a lot of money, you know. So, but no, they're really, 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 really good. And that's my takeaway as well. I mean, the actual content of the interview with Lange, yeah, quite interesting, but you know, wasn't too excited about it really. You know, like I think anyway that once Paratici comes in, assuming Paratici is still coming, because they haven't announced that, have they? Maybe they'll announce that tomorrow, like literally day one of the new era. Here's Don Fabio coming back in, you know.
Imagine if you get that and then Lange gets sacked the next minute. It'd be, you just think, what the hell is going on with this country and this club? You wouldn't know, would you?
No.
How much change have we gone through? How much change can a club go through in a single summer? If you think about it.
I mean, it's considerable, isn't it? It's like, but the last couple of years have been like it. The medical department, they've sacked them 2 years in a row. I mean, to be honest, we might as well have hired a new A&E department for North Mid, to be honest. They've cleared them out. They've cleared out so many of the scouts as well. The old guard, David Pleat, Ian Bloomfield have gone. There's been data analysts that have gone. I mean, it was quite interesting hearing Andy Scolding's name in that, because I heard a rumour that he'd gone about a year and a half ago as well. But when you think back to all of what Paratici put in place, that's all gone now, isn't it? The head of youth developments have changed over. All the coaching staff continuously changes. So there's been so many changes at Spurs. It's all kind of got to this point now, I think, which is, I don't know. I mean, Rebel makes a good point towards avoiding instability, but there has been a lot of instability with the backroom teams as well. That's why they keep changing it, and because of all the problems that we've seen and got.
We've made really bad, bigger hiring decisions, haven't we? Like Scott Munn again. You know, I know you love him, Cal. So I'll just put him out there.
On your bike, you prick.
There you go. there was, you know, like he was supposed to be like the MD or the, you know, operations director.
Yeah,
and
chief
he brought
football
in,
officer, weren't he?
yeah,
But
so
he never worked in football.
no,
Well, he had
or
worked
he's
in football. He'd worked for City
Hong
Group,
Kong.
but
Yeah,
Low
yeah,
level.
but for like the Asian leagues, to be honest,
Yeah.
there's not much revenue
relevant.
from that.
he's not a football man at all, and
No,
he
he's not.
brought in a lot of people into his team that just frankly didn't work out. And actually, I think Scott Munn, to be fair, Scott Munn wasn't Ange actually Scott Munn's kind of pick, essentially. Like obviously, probably with some input from, you know, from some other people, but essentially he brought Ange in, and you know, Ange brought in all of his people as well. You know, there was a lot of change just in that whole time, and then Conte and what was Conte's assistant called again? I can't remember his name.
Stellini.
Yeah, Stellini
Stellini.
and
Yeah, you know, all that. You know, like,
and the 20 members of staff that he brings with him every chance he goes.
I mean, over the last, like, since Mourinho, since COVID, let's say, right, since Mourinho was there, the changes every 1 or 2 years have been massive in backroom staff as well, but not so much in people like, you know, some of those scouts who've actually been there, as Cal said, for a long, long time, and obviously Don McCullen being there. I might be wrong, but I've got a feeling that Don McCullen was there before Levy. So maybe even in the 90s, but I might be wrong on that. Don't hold me to that. But I've got a feeling that she might have been at the club in some shape or form, even in the 90s, you know, and she stepped up. But anyway, she was there for 20.
Yeah, it's certainly a very similar time period to Levy, because I remember reading the statement. It's very, very similar. It was either the year before or after, so it could quite possibly be right.
I mean, Phil, someone I know me and you are lying on who we really liked, Gabbiadini and all that, the chief scout that we had. He's the one that who should have got Lange's job and all that, but they wouldn't let him have it.
But you know what? After we talked about him last week, I spent about an hour like Googling him and trying to find out where he is, or actually find any sign of him. And he's kind of disappeared, like for the last 3 or 4 months. There's no media reports about him. Like he was in talks about maybe going to Saudi or somewhere, I think, like in April or May. But since then, I couldn't find a single update on him.
Maybe Teejay kidnapped him with all his conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
he's funny.
Well, hope maybe he's still available. Maybe he's going to come back with Don Fabio. I don't know. But, supposedly, though, my last point on him, though, when I was doing all of that Googling, I did find a couple of reports that said that he had also been advising us on a freelance basis, even last year, similar to Paratici. So I don't know if he actually has still been. Well, I don't think he hasn't been in this window, but maybe last season he was still kind of doing something, but as a consultant. So watch this space. Maybe he'll come back, because you know he did a lot of the. I think he gets a lot of the credit, right, for Paratici's work. To be honest,
Can't do much worse than Rob McKenzie that we got in under Lange. He's awful as chief scout, to be honest. But you are right. I mean, Gabbiadini was doing the first window with Ange and all that. That's the thing. And he is Paratici, one of his disciples as such. So, but it's just, you are right. The whole change throughout the club has been coming to this hiatus, and with all the new stuff. I mean, it's an exciting period, isn't it? We have to be open-minded to it. And if the club aren't going to be, if ENIC and the Tavistock Group and the Lewis family aren't going to be sold, they have to use this as a springboard now to go on to better things. Because if they don't, we'll be in this same period in 18 months again.
That's the worry. But no, thank you. Go on, Phillip.
I just wanted to shout out that I just got a message from someone who basically just confirmed that Josh Levy, who I assume is Daniel's son, that he's co-CEO of Tavistock Group still, or he has been co-CEO of Tavistock. So I don't know if that's going to have any well, if the decision today is going to have any bearing on him, because I would imagine that he can't stay as co-CEO, but then on the other hand, why couldn't he? I mean, he could do, right? Levy's still a shareholder of ENIC, but Tavistock Group is like Tottenham is basically is a portfolio company, right, of Tavistock Group essentially.
Yeah.
So Josh Levy will in his role as CEO will be involved in all of the financials around that, and the growth of the club and the profit and valuation.
I mean, I can come up with a conspiracy like T. Imagine if he staged a coup against his dad to remove him. Imagine if he'd have done that. That'd make an interesting Christmas dinner on the 25th of December, won't it?
Yeah.
Last question I wanted to give to you, Dillion, before we wrap up, to bring you in on this conversation. So one thing that stood out to me, Johan Lange suggested that there are bumps in the road after Spurs' transfer window, and things in the end, though, turned out for better. That's what the boys are kind of saying about getting Xavi Simons. Do you agree with him that despite going through that pain, like with Eze, with Gibbs White, even with Hincapié, is worth it to go and get our targets in the end in the likes of Simons?
Yes and no. I mean, it's the joy of being a Spurs fan, I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, I want us to be an attractive club. I want players to look at us and be like, I want to be at Spurs. Not just, it's not a money thing. I know it can be, nowadays players do look at money and they're tempted by it, especially with the wage bill. And that's something we've seemed to struggle with getting over with players and stuff. But I want players to want to join us as well, because if they're going to go and choose like Arsenal or like we've heard, or United, I don't want them at the club. And I think even Thomas Frank said it himself in an interview the other day that he doesn't want players who don't want to play for the badge.
Exactly.
But to what you said, I mean, if it can really depend. If there's definitely a good option that we still have on our radar, because I know Xavi Simons was someone we'd been linked with for quite a few months now. And we kept an eye on, because obviously we had the Eze and Morgan Gibbs White saga. I didn't actually think we were going to get him, but as we know, I mean, Chelsea I think they pissed around a little bit with it. I was a little bit scared that as we got closer to getting it done, that they were going to then go swoop him up. But I don't think he was going to. I don't think where would he play at Chelsea? They've got about 5 million players. Sure, he wanted to join them more, but you've got to think about it. He's not going to get much game time, I don't think. As good of a player he is, I do think he would do well at Spurs, though. I mean, I hope so, especially after the international break. So it would be good to see him. But yeah, I think rarely. I think from what we've had this window, because obviously it was so painful watching all of these deals slip by. I wouldn't want us to wait the way we have, the way it's gone. Only if we are consistently getting players signed through this transfer window or whatever transfer window, then maybe we can have 1 or 2 players that we've got in the back of our mind that we don't mind waiting for. So, but otherwise, we've got to be going for players, and we've got to know what we want, and we've just got to splash the cash. I think, like a centre back, that's something we could look at right now. I think Hincapié didn't want to play for Spurs, so I don't want him. Simple as that. As good as a player, I think he is. I think he's a great player. If he doesn't want to play for us and he wants to go join them bloody lot down the road, no, I don't want you. Thank you very much. So I'd rather wait a bit. Maybe we'll have a look at that in January, but for now, I don't mind. So yeah.
No, lovely stuff. I'd like to read out a YouTube comment from Rebel Lion. Big up to him. He said, enjoyed this. Wish hadn't joined so late. Thank you. I want to thank him for watching. Reminder, you can always go back at any time and catch up any bits you've listened to, as you can on a podcast platform available anytime, anywhere. So thank you so much for coming in. We hope that you do come back. But any final comments from anyone before we wrap up the podcast?
Thank you.
No, thank you very much for coming on. Let's see if we can find you all across the socials. We'll start with you, Kallum. Thank you. Where can people find you?
No, thanks for having me on with all the boys again. It's nice to do it, coming to an end of a week and a positive week for Spurs. So, you can find me at Kallum Stubbs 97 on X. You can find me on Park Lane Podcast. You can find me at Spurs Diehards on a Sunday. I've joined the team this season. You can find me on Facebook, Kallum Stubbs as well. And you can find me on Scarfey Spurs Talks pretty much every other week at the moment, I think it is, unless Happy Feet bans me.
I don't know how he came up with that name, but hey ho, maybe there's more positive time now.
But
Spurs
no,
us to overtime.
it has been a pleasure, mate, to be back on again with the boys and yourself. So thanks very much.
No, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much, Kallum. And Phillip, talking about, pleasure. Always great to have you on. Where can people find you across the socials and talk to people about the wonderful South Germany Spurs in the making?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on again. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for having me on. And also tonight, actually, a much more dynamic and even more interesting kind of subject, right, to talk about, as opposed to just the transfer window in the end, kind of unexpected. So it was, it was particularly great today, even greater than normal. So yeah, really good. Thanks. I'm mainly on X, so at Frankfurt Spurs. I'm based out here in Frankfurt. I think I mentioned it before in here. I'm on the board of an official Tottenham Hotspur supporters club here in Germany. South Germany Spurs. We're changing the name to German Lily Whites. And we're actually about to launch our updated crest, for our supporters club as well in the coming days. So we're going to have merch as well out for that. And obviously with the Champions League draw, already looking forward to another game for Spurs here on my home patch in Frankfurt in January. So be good to see as many of you guys out there over here as possible. And, maybe we can sort out some meetups, etc. as well. But yeah, check me out. And as I said, it's always a pleasure to be on H.
Great to have you. Thank you very much, Phillip. When I saw Frankfurt in the draw, I thought of you straight away because you come on here, didn't you, the podcast before, and we were previewing it. And I was like, who do you want? You're like, yeah, Frankfurt would be great. I think we can get Frankfurt. I just find it ironic as well, by the way, especially Arsenal fans saying, you won't get Bodo Glimt and Frankfurt in the Champions League. Well, take that. We got both. So two fingers up to them. But no, thank you very much, Phillip. And Dillion, always great to have you as well. Second time on, I do believe. Where can people find you on the socials, mate?
Third time on, actually.
Third time? Oh, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
No, thank you again for having me here. Really appreciate it. I do love having a discussion about Spurs. You can find me mainly on YouTube, X, Instagram, and TikTok. I do Tottenham content all on there. I'm loving it so far. Quite new to doing Tottenham related content, but been enjoying it. I've been very lucky and privileged to meet with the people I have so far, and yeah.
Lovely, thank you so much. And follow all these guys across social media. Personally, got something quite exciting to announce that I have announced in the last 24 hours. The link is there, and it is to channel merch. It's the second time that we've sold with the company in S66 Sportswear, which is, I think, incredibly exciting. What's different about this is an ever so slightly different design, but what is the most notable is the new logo. But name me anywhere else where you will find from 2024 to 2025 that the price has stayed the same. You can find this with the channel merch. It's locked in, stayed the same price. Do you know what? Actually, it's got cheaper because there's no delivery fee. So there you go. Something's got cheaper from 2024 to 2025. That will amaze people on its own. So if you can check that out, it'd be great. The link is in the YouTube chat. If you're listening on podcast platform and you do want it, please do get in touch with me at Harry Scarfe to provide it. It's available. They do 14-day workshops. So it's available to buy till the 15th of September. It is £25, quick delivery, free delivery, customizable for no extra price. So, as far as I'm concerned, you pay the same price for no name and number or having a name and number. Name and number.
Every guest from tonight gets a free shirt. Harry said it to me off air. He's giving them out for free.
It'd be fine with me, but I think I'll be in trouble with S66 Sportswear. I think that's for sure. I think that'll be the end of the collaboration. But I want to thank them for doing that. I want to thank our current partners in the Kitman looking to expand our partners and also sponsors for this year. So hopefully something progresses with that. But no, honestly, thank you to everyone who's listened tonight, tuned in, got involved. Big show, big news at Tottenham. Always keep the faith. For now, a massive come on you Spurs. If you're listening on YouTube, like, subscribe, podcast platform, 5-star review, and a follow. Big thanks. Up Spurs.